Let us note firstly, that what science calls the moon's valleys and mountains, are really nothing more than small surface irregularities, that are sometimes enhanced by light and shadow, and by our perspective from the Earth's surface. One could rename these valleys and mountains, to wrinkles and scars, and it would be 1,000,000 times closer to the truth, than what NASA tells us. As I said in the introduction, try and stay away from subconscious labels that were delivered to you at a young age. The craters on the other hand are real, and are caused by impacts with smaller and falling celestial bodies. Many in the flat Earth community think the moon is semi-transparent at times. This is largely based upon three things: blue sky phenomena, star sightings, and Islamic symbolism. Let's dissect each of these. Blue sky phenomena. Many say that, as one can see the blue sky through the moon sometimes, therefore, it's transparent. This argument falls down in many ways. The blue color of the atmosphere is only 15 to 20 kilometers thick, and you can clearly see this in all of the high-altitude weather balloon videos. When they go over 30 kilometers, that blue layer is not there anymore, and when the camera points up, it's just black, and when the camera points down, it can be seen that the blue layer below is only above the Earth's surface, in a thin layer. These images are from around 120,000 feet, and the blue layer is below, and the moon is higher. One modern researcher claimed, the moon is most certainly self-illuminated, but not a ball or solid. You can easily see through the moon most afternoons. You can see blue sky right through the supposed craters on the moon. The craters of the moon are just darker than the rest of the moon's surface. This is why the blue haze has more of an impact on the color of the craters. But it's just a simple and obvious illusion. Jump the gun. Side note, there are just some portions of the moon that have a dimmer light. The possible malfunctioning is greater in those sections, because of stronger impacts during cataclysm. The so-called blue craters just look darker than the rest of the moon's surface, the same as they look at night. They don't shine as brightly as the rest of the moon's surface. This thin blue layer of atmosphere is probably some sort of prana or chi. Though mainstream science says the blue layer is caused by sunlight scattering more blue, or shorter smaller waves than any other color. This is known as Rayleigh scattering, basically a type of refraction, and for me, their evidence is flaky, at best. Stars in front of the moon. There have been many sightings of a light, star and planet, passing in front of the moon. J. Atkinson in Earth Review magazine said that the moon is not a perfectly opaque body, but a crystallized substance, is shown from the fact that when a few hours old, or even at quarter, we can through the unilluminated portion, see the light shining on the other side. Stars have also been observed through her surface. Samuel Burley Robotham on his book said, on March 7, 1794, 4 astronomers, 3 in Norwich, 1 in London, wrote in the Philosophical Transactions of the Royal Astronomical Society, that they saw a star in the dark part of the moon, which had not then attained the first quadrature, and from the representations, which are given the star, must have appeared very far advanced upon the disk. Sir James South of the Royal Observatory in Kensington wrote, in a letter to the Times newspaper April 7, 1848, that, on the 15th of March, 1848, when the moon was 7½ days old, I never saw her unillumined disk so beautifully. On my first looking into the telescope, a star of about the 7th magnitude was some minutes of a degree distant from the moon's dark limb. I saw that its occultation by the moon was inevitable. The star, instead of disappearing the moment the moon's edge came in contact with it, apparently glided on the moon's dark face, as if it had been seen through a transparent moon, or as if a star were between me and the moon. I have seen a similar apparent projection several times. The cause of this phenomenon is involved in impenetrable mystery. In the monthly notices of the Royal Astronomical Society, for June 8, 1860, Thomas Gaunt stated that the occultation of Jupiter by the Moon, on the 24th of May, 1860, was seen with an achromatic of 3.3 inches aperture, 50 inches focus, the immersion with a power of 50, and the immersion with a power of 70. At the immersion, I could not see the dark limb of the Moon, until the planet appeared to touch it, and then, only to the extent of the diameter of the planet, but what I was most struck with was the appearance on the Moon, as it passed over the planet. It appeared as though the planet was a dark object, and glided onto the Moon instead of behind it, and the appearance continued, until the planet was hid, when I suddenly lost the dark limb of the Moon altogether. I have personally also seen stars through the edge of the waxing or waning Moon. It actually happens fairly often. If you are diligent and specifically observing for the phenomenon on starry nights, you can occasionally see it, even with the naked eye. On the 15th of March, 1848, when the Moon was 7.5 days old, I never saw her unillumined disk so beautifully. On my first looking into the telescope, a star of about the 7th magnitude was some minutes of a degree distant from the Moon's dark limb. I saw that its occultation by the Moon was inevitable. The star, instead of disappearing, the moment the Moon's edge came in contact with it, apparently glided on the Moon's dark face, as if it had been seen through a transparent Moon, or as if a star were between me and the Moon. Islamic symbolism. Some point to the symbol for Islam as backing up the notion that the Moon is transparent. Note that the five-pointed star is often Venus in much esoterica. The origin of this symbol is deep in Mesopotamia, with the crescent of Sin, Nana to the Sumerians, and the star of Ishtar, Inanna to the Sumerians. 1st century coin. Is the above enough to suggest the Moon is transparent sometimes? Is a portion of it invisible, like near the time of new moon? Is this Moon non-physical and interdimensional? This is also semi-related. Venus, and possibly Mercury, sometimes, very rarely, pass in front of the Moon. They are both a similar distance away from the Earth, as they both pass in front of the Sun sometimes. In this theory, Venus and Mercury would obviously have a pattern, in which they slowly came a bit nearer to the Earth, in front of the Moon, then slowly moved a bit further out again, behind the Moon, as is normally the case. This is logical, because Venus and Mercury sometimes pass in front of the Sun, but mostly behind it. Islamic scholars and astronomers state that on the dawn of June 10, 640 AD, Venus was conjunct the Sun, around the time Muhammad apparently had a chinwag with Gabriel. These are images of transits in front of the Sun, Venus on the left, Mercury on the right. Venus transits occur in a pattern that generally repeats every 243 years, with pairs of transits 8 years apart, separated by long gaps of 121.5 years, and 105.5 years. Each transit lasts a few hours. Funnily enough, it appears as a black dot, like the Moon should at new moon. Mercury is known to transit in front of the Sun much more frequently than Venus, about 13 or 14 times each century. Each transit lasts a few hours. Funnily enough, it appears as a black dot, like the Moon should at new moon. Also, Mercury's November transits happen every 7, 13, or 33 years, and Mercury's May transits every 13 or 33 years. Occult numbers galore. Both Venus and Mercury transits appear differently in different parts of the world. This helps prove that this is all going on not too far away. If Venus and Mercury pass behind and in front of the Sun, in the flat Earth model, it's highly logical that sometimes they will pass in front of the Moon. In the flat Earth model, the Sun and Moon are both around 3,000 miles away, with the Moon slightly closer. As Venus is much brighter than Mercury, the star in the Moon surely has to be Venus.